Well, welcome once again, Wimborne Alliance Church family. Thank you so much for taking time to join us today. Welcome as well if you've just found us online at our website or on our Facebook page, or maybe you've been invited to watch by someone who's a part of our church family here in Wimborne. Just want to say thanks for joining us today, and my prayer is that you would be encouraged and challenged, but most of all that you would be drawn closer to Jesus through this video today. We are continuing on our journey through the book of Hebrews. It's found close to the end of the New Testament in your Bible, and so I would invite you to go get your Bible, open it up, or you can open up your app on your phone or device. We're going to be in the book of Hebrews, chapter 4. The Bible is God's word to us, and so it's wise then for us to pause and to ask Him to help us understand and receive what He's speaking to us today. And so let's pray together. O Lord, in your mercy and kindness, open your word to us and open us to your word. Amen. I'm going to read our text for today out of Hebrews chapter 4. We're going to read the first 13 verses and consider what is there for us today. And so chapter 4, starting at verse 1, I'm going to be reading out of the New Living Translation. And it's entitled, Promised Rest for God's People. God's promise of entering His rest still stands. So we ought to tremble with fear that some of you might fail to experience it. This good news that God has prepared this rest has been announced to us just as it was to them. But it did them no good because they didn't share the faith of those who listened to God. For only we who believe can enter His rest. And as for the others, God said, in my anger I took an oath that they will never enter my place of rest, even though this rest has been ready since He made the world. We know it's ready because of the place in the Scriptures where it mentions the seventh day. On the seventh day, God rested from all His work. But in the other passage, God said, they will never enter my place of rest. So, God's rest is there for people to enter, but those who first heard this good news failed to enter because they disobeyed God. So God set another time for entering His rest, and that time is today. God announced this through David. Much later, the words already quoted, today when you hear His voice, don't harden your hearts. Now, if Joshua had succeeded in giving them this rest, God would not have spoken about another day of rest still to come. So there is a special rest still waiting for the people of God. For all who have entered into God's rest have rested from their labors, just as God did after creating the world. So let us do our best to enter that rest. But if we disobey God, as the people of Israel did, we will fall. For the word of God is active and powerful. It's sharper than the sharpest two-edged sword, cutting between soul and spirit, between joint and marrow. It exposes our inmost thoughts and desires. Nothing in all creation is hidden from God. Everything is naked and exposed before His eyes. And He is the one to whom we are accountable. This is God's Word. The book of Hebrews is a sermon that was probably written by a pastor about 30 years or so after the resurrection of Jesus Christ. And he wrote it to his Christian friends, his church family, probably back in the city of Rome. And his friends were struggling to keep the faith. And some of them had perhaps abandoned following Jesus. And they went back to their Jewish roots and culture and practices that were more culturally acceptable and was familiar to them. Other friends were getting discouraged in their faith and perhaps were tired and afraid and experiencing maybe some persecution, but experiencing what one might call pockets of unbelief. Imagine, if you will, a place where things are at rest, at peace. You are safe and secure. No one will harm you. You have great relationships, and you belong. There's much beauty all around you, much joy and much delight. People and plants and animals, all of creation flourishes. The work of your hands is not tiring, it's not draining, but it's life-giving as you use your gifts and talents and abilities to create and to tend and to nurture. Home, your soul is at rest. They called it the Promised Land, the land that was flowing with milk and honey, the land where the grapes were as big as apples and honey flowed out of the honeycombs. The sheep and the goats and the cattle flourished and were productive, grazing on lush pastures, drinking from cool, clear streams of water. The grain and the crops would yield 100-fold. Enemies would be banished. Even the wild animals would cause no harm. This promised land, the place where God would take his newly formed nation of Israel, so they would flourish in safety under his rule and reign, out of slavery in Egypt, where they were identified and branded and marked as slaves and outcasts, less than, other. And their worth and value was measured by how many bricks they could make, where the government dictated their movements, their worship, their family life, even which babies would live. And they looked to the Promised Land, where they would be God's people, and he would be their God. This was their goal, this was their aim, this was their hope, this people of God, looking forward to a new home, a place of rest. There was a woman, and she was alone. Husbandless, childless, without a home, without a future, pushed to the margin as a widow, rejected by her family because she had married a man outside of their culture. And she clung to the only fragment of family she had, her mother-in-law, who was as devastated as she was. Her husband and sons dead. Also alone in a foreign place. And so too, broken, devastated, marginalized, poor and hungry widows painfully made their way, shamefully made their way back to what had once been the mother-in-law's home. "Call me bitter," the older woman said, "for life is no longer pleasant. God has abandoned me and treated me harshly. Call me Mara and not Naomi." And the younger woman scrounged, looked for food, bringing what she could so they could survive. And she found herself in the fields, following the workers picking up bits of grain. She found herself in the fields of a good man who treated her with dignity and respect and tenderness. Following the counsel of her mother-in-law, she found security and flourishing and a new beauty, a new identity that she had not even dared to dream of or hope for. She found it as the wife of this good and godly man. And as a new family, they flourished, and she had a son. One who not only filled their life, but her mother-in-law's life with love and hope and promise. She had come home. She found rest. A shepherd poet writes, singing praises to God, our protector who delivers us, entering his presence with thanksgiving and praise. He is our great shepherd. We are his sheep. We belong to him. Come close to him. Experience his rest. Experience his provision. Don't believe and disobey, he writes. Come home. Come rest. And another shepherd poet, maybe the same one, writes, the Lord is my shepherd. I have no wants. I lack nothing. He takes me to lush green pastures. He leads me to refreshing still waters, where I can drink deeply and satisfy my soul. I'm safe there with him, even when my enemies are around about me. I trust in my Savior, in my shepherd, to give me all I need to flourish and enjoy his presence. The place of rest is with my shepherd, belonging to him, trusting him, where all is well. Home. Rest. And another shepherd, the great shepherd, invites all who would come to me, all you who are weary and heavy burdened. Come to me, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you. Learn from me. I'm gentle and humble at heart. Come to me. Come home, and you'll find rest for your soul. You want to be in a place like that, where you belong, where you're part of a family, where people know you, where they know your name, where they know about you, good, bad, and ugly, and they love you anyway? Where your acceptance and value and worth isn't based on what you do or how you appear, how you look, but it's based on what the shepherd says about you. Your value, your worth, your identity is based on who your Savior says you are. In his encouragement to his friends, the author of Hebrews reaches way back into their history as Jews and draws heavily on their defining story as a people, as the people of God, delivered from slavery, led into the promised land by Moses and later Joshua. He pulls them back into Psalm 95, and we hear echoes of Psalm 23. We hear hints of the story of Ruth. We're pulled back into the beginning at creation. And today, as we read this sermon, we hear Jesus' voice as recorded by Matthew. The thought of rest, the rest of God that is made available for God's people serves as strong motivation for Christians to keep the faith, to persevere in the faith. The rest of God that was promised to the people of Israel in the promised land was a taste of what God has in store for all of his people. In an argument from the lesser to the greater, as the writer of Hebrews often does, he points to how much greater God's rest is today for those who trust in Jesus, for those who believe. And he's not talking about a place or something that's only in the future. He's talking about rest for our soul that Jesus offers to those who trust him. The rest that God offers to those that trust him is for body and soul, for we belong to him, body and soul. And this rest is not simply a ceasing from our daily work, although that's part of it. When God rested on the seventh day in Genesis 2 from his work in creating, it wasn't because he was tired. It wasn't because he had nothing left to create. It wasn't because he needed a break. He rested because the work of creation was finished. It was done. It was completed. He looked at it, at all that he had done, all that he had created, the heavens and the earth and everything in it, and he said, it is very good. And he rested. He rested and ceased from the work of creation to enjoy what he had created. He stopped from the work of creation to enjoy what he had done, to enjoy relationship with Adam and Eve. These two, man and a woman, that he had fashioned with his own hands and breathed life into. God's rest was full of delight in the work of his hands and seeing and enjoying the beauty of creation. To watch Adam and Eve work in the garden, taking care of it, husbanding it, being creative and fruitful and productive, enjoying the work of their hands, brought great delight to God. The fullest delight, the best part of God's rest was this love relationship, unmarked by sin, that he had with Adam and Eve, and he walked with them in the cool of the evening in the garden. But when they disobeyed him, that relationship was broken. And man's relationship with God has been broken since then. The only remedy is when Jesus entered time and space as Jesus of Nazareth to offer his perfectly obedient life as a substitute to pay for the sin of all mankind. In trusting that Jesus is able, he's qualified, and he's willing to save us from our sin, we are able to share in this rest of God. We are able to enjoy once again a love relationship with him, delighting in his work in all creation, delighting in our work as we bear his image. Most of all, depending on Jesus' finished work on the cross as the basis for our identity as sons and daughters of God. We are invited as we believe into the rest of God. Resting from our work and trying to be acceptable to him, trying to gain his approval, trying to prove ourselves, make it on our own. We rest from our work in doing that, and we rest in Jesus' work of a perfectly obedient life, and we delight in the righteousness, his righteousness, that he covers us with. What would stop a Christian from experiencing or entering into this wonderful place of belonging and security and fruitfulness and beauty and delight. The same thing that prevented many of the Israelites from crossing the Jordan River and entering the Promised Land. Unbelief, disbelief, which always leads to disobedience. For many Christians, although we believe that Jesus saves us from our sin, we don't carry that through to its fulfillment, if I could put it like that. We get saved with the most basic, very limited understanding of who Jesus is and what He's done for us and what He wants us to experience in Him. And many Christians don't believe that salvation has any more to do, any more to offer than I'm just not going to hell. And they live, so many people live with huge, gaping pockets of disbelief. Verse 9 in our text declares that there is a special rest waiting for the people of God. And this safety and security and flourishing and peaceful, delightful relationship with Jesus is available for those who trust Him to save them. Why are some followers of Jesus not experiencing this rest, this fullness of all that we share with Jesus? I think it's because we don't believe Him. Although we may trust Him to save us from our sins, in the sense that we won't go to hell, some ways we're still not willing to believe what He says about us. And so we disobey the gospel, in essence, in that we do not accept and live out our identity as belonging to Him, as being loved by Him, as being adopted by His sons, as being His adopted sons and daughters. And we justify, and we rationalize, and we deny, and we whatever, and we stay busy. And we compare ourselves with people we think that are worse than us. We just don't believe and accept God's love for us. We think we know ourselves. We think somehow we can fix ourselves and make us acceptable to God and can manage our own life. Or we believe that there's nothing that we could do to make us acceptable to God because we're unlovable. We're unwanted. We're forgotten and abandoned. It's not worth it. Maybe we believe that we are broken, irreparably broken, just damaged goods, not fixable. Maybe we believe that even Jesus doesn't really want to look at us. Maybe we don't have the courage to look in deep into our own hearts and face the truth about our life. Maybe we're afraid of what we might discover, and maybe we don't have the tools or the light to see into our own motives, our thought patterns, our desires. And so we build walls, huge walls, high walls, impenetrable walls, and we close the doors and we lock them and we bar them. And even in those private rooms, we sweep things under the rug. We don't fully believe the gospel. We disobey the gospel and reject the identity that Jesus secured for us by giving His own perfect life on the cross. He did that so we could be identified by His righteousness, marked and identified by His Spirit as belonging to Him, as His sons and daughters of God, as brothers and sisters in Christ, and allowing His Spirit to bring forth His character in us, the fruits of His Spirit. Maybe we think that we can hide from God, that even He doesn't understand my life, what I've experienced, what I'm going through. He doesn't know me like I know me. And further, he doesn't actually care. The truth is that he does. He does understand. Jesus identifies with us. He was here. He does know us. And he cares more than we could ever imagine. His word, his living word, is alive and it's effective. It does what he intends it to do. The written word, the living word by the Holy Spirit, when we accept him and we trust him, he exposes who we are. He opens it up. As a sharp knife cuts through skin and muscle, ligament and tendon and exposes what is, so the Word of God lays us open, renders us exposed, vulnerable, with no defense. In verse 13, where the writer says, and everything is naked and exposed before his eyes, and he's the one to whom we are accountable, the writer is reaching into the Greek culture of the day, into the sports arena. And the image of exposed involves a powerful hold that one wrestler would have on another. And these two powerful athletes grappling with one another until one has a hold on the other's neck, pulling his head back into a position in such a fashion as to render him powerless, his neck left exposed and vulnerable and defenseless. Victory is certain. Surrender is inescapable. There is no move left. Nothing to do but depend on the mercy of the victor. When we believe the gospel, when we accept and believe who God says we are because of what Jesus has done on the cross, that he loves us and that we belong to him body and soul, that our identity is in him, not what others think or even what we think about ourselves, but who he says we are, we're exposed, we're defenseless, we're dependent on his mercy. And his mercy is sure. It's new every morning. We can be confident in his mercy. We can trust his mercy. His mercy is great. We can be confident in it today, tomorrow, and forever. This is the rest of God. Confident in who he says we are, belonging to him, trusting his mercy to make beautiful what was scarred, to heal what was broken, to make fruitful and flourishing what was dry and barren, to experience peace, even in a broken, wicked, out of control world. To find our place in God's family with our brothers and sisters. And we bring a taste of this rest into our world, into our homes, into our works, into our communities and the whole world. The rest of God continues. It's not static, it's dynamic. We grow in the faith. We believe more. We yield more. We fight sin daily and put it to death, confident in God's mercy and love and forgiveness. We're given more gifts. We receive more of his love. We're forgiven more. So we've got more to give away. We've got more love to give. We've got more forgiveness to give. The rest of God begins here on earth and will be fully experienced when we get to our new home, when all of God's children are gathered together in our heavenly home from every tribe and tongue and nation, and we worship God together with one voice, one song as the family of God. Why wouldn't we want this? What could be better than this? Why would every follower of Jesus not want to experience this rest of God? What could possibly prevent a follower of Jesus from experiencing this incredible flourishing and peace and security and confidence and identity and calling that Jesus has already secured, and He's offering it to us? What could stand in the way? Why would we not want this? Unbelief. Not believing who Jesus says we are. Getting caught in traps and snares of mistruths and half-truths and outright lies. Unbelief, disbelief, and so disobeying the gospel, which is to believe in Jesus. The pastor who wrote this sermon long ago to encourage his friends to keep the faith and persevere in their difficult times, and this pastor who pleads with you today to keep the faith and persevere in these difficult days, we join our voices together and say, look to Jesus. Look to the author of our faith, the Waymaker. Believe Him. Trust Him. Count on Him. Let His love draw you in and define you. Surrender to Jesus. You got nowhere to go. There's no escape from His love. Surrender to His mercy. Hold firmly to the faith and come boldly to the throne of our gracious God, and there we will receive mercy and find grace to help us when we need it most, and we need it today. Do you need His mercy today? Do you need help today? He says, come home. Come to me. Come home. And I will give you rest for your soul. Come to Jesus. I hope that these words from Hebrews 4, these images from Scripture, have pointed you today to Jesus. Maybe for the first time. Maybe you've never heard that He loves you and you belong to Him, and He's given you a new name, a new identity. Maybe you've heard it before, but it hasn't really sunk in, and so you come to Jesus again. Wherever you are, whatever you're experiencing, whatever you've done, whatever's been done to you, come to Jesus. Trust His mercy. Come home. Find rest for your soul. I want to say thanks for watching, for taking time today. My prayer is that God would bless you and keep you until we meet again.